This is not a campaign rally. This is not a policy speech. This is something far more unusual. A sitting first lady stepping into the spotlight not through politics, but through cinema. Melania Trump has premiered a new documentary about her life and returned to the White House, debuting it at one of the most iconic cultural institutions in America. And in Washington, where every move carries meaning, the question is already spreading. Is this simply a personal film or the beginning of a new political and cultural strategy? Washington, D.C., January 2026. The red carpet was rolled out at the Kennedy Center, the historic performing arts venue long seen as a symbol of American culture and national prestige. But this week, it was not a Broadway legend or a Hollywood blockbuster drawing the cameras. It was the First Lady of the United States. Melania Trump arrived alongside President Donald Trump for the premiere of her new documentary titled Melania, a rare and striking moment in modern presidential history. The film, which follows the weeks leading up to her return as First Lady during Donald Trump's second inauguration, is being released globally in theaters, with distribution handled by Amazon MGM Studios. It is an extraordinary project not only because of its scale, but because it is extremely uncommon for a sitting First Lady to release a commercial documentary about herself while actively serving in the White House. The documentary offers what supporters describe as an intimate behind-the-scenes portrait of Melania Trump, focusing on the 20 days leading up to the inauguration and her transition back into the role of First Lady. According to reporting, the film includes personal moments, preparations, and reflections that are rarely seen by the public. Melania Trump has long been known as one of the most private figures to ever occupy the position, often avoiding constant media exposure even during her first term. This documentary marks a major shift. At the premiere, Melania Trump described the film as emotional, beautiful, and cinematic. She emphasized that it is meant to provide a closer look at her life and responsibilities, offering audiences a perspective that goes beyond the headlines. President Trump walked the carpet with her, signaling the importance of the project not just as entertainment, but as a public event with national visibility. The Kennedy Center premiere itself carried symbolic weight. The venue is often associated with bipartisan cultural celebration, a place meant to rise above politics. But in recent months, the Kennedy Center has undergone leadership changes shaped by Trump administration appointments, fueling debate over whether America's major arts institutions are becoming increasingly politicized. Against that backdrop, Melania Trump's documentary debut at the Kennedy Center became more than just a film premiere. It became a cultural moment. The documentary is also notable for its production backing. Reports indicate the film is tied to a high-value deal with Amazon MGM Studios, reportedly worth tens of millions of dollars. That alone has drawn attention because it places the First Lady at the center of a major commercial entertainment project while serving in office. While there is no law prohibiting such a release, critics argue it raises ethical and cultural questions about the blending of public office and personal branding. Supporters counter that Melania Trump has every right to tell her story, and that the documentary provides a rare opportunity to humanize a figure who has often been portrayed as distant or enigmatic. They argue that the role of First Lady has always involved public presentation, and that modern media simply offers new ways to communicate directly with audiences. The film is directed by Brett Ratner, a Hollywood director whose involvement has drawn attention because of past allegations of misconduct that led to his absence from major projects for years. His return to directing with such a high-profile political subject has sparked further discussion about the documentary's broader cultural significance and the choices behind its production team. Melania Trump's decision to serve as an executive producer also underscores how personally controlled the project is. This is not simply a documentary made about her. It is a documentary shaped by her own narrative voice, her own framing, and her own vision. That level of direct involvement makes the film both more personal and more politically charged. The documentary arrives at a moment when Melania Trump's role in her husband's second term is evolving. During Trump's first presidency, she often maintained a low public profile, focusing on limited initiatives and rarely engaging in the daily political storms surrounding the administration. This time, observers say she appears more visible and more strategically positioned. The film's release suggests an effort to redefine her public identity. For years, Melania Trump has been an object of fascination because of her silence. She has often been described as the most private first lady in modern history, someone who rarely speaks publicly and carefully chooses her appearances. That privacy has fueled speculation and intense media scrutiny. The documentary, by offering curated access, may be an attempt to take control of that narrative. The premiere drew a crowd of high-profile guests, including cabinet officials, members of Congress, conservative commentators, and political allies. The event was both glamorous and politically charged, blending the aesthetics of Hollywood with the atmosphere of Washington power. The film is set to open in more than 1,500 theaters across the United States and internationally. That wide release is significant. This is not a niche streaming project. It is a global theatrical rollout, positioning Melania Trump not just as a political spouse, but as a major media figure. The timing has also drawn attention. America is deeply polarized, and the Trump administration remains one of the most controversial political forces of the era. Releasing a documentary centered on the First Lady during such a climate inevitably invites interpretation. Some will see it as personal storytelling, others will see it as political branding. In Washington, perception is never neutral. Critics argue that promoting a commercial documentary while holding public office risks blurring lines between governance and personal profit. They question whether such projects should be separated from the responsibilities of serving the country. Supporters argue the First Lady is not an elected official, that she has always maintained independent business interests, and that storytelling through film is not inherently unethical. The debate reflects a larger shift in American politics, where media, branding, and entertainment increasingly overlap with public power. Presidents now communicate directly through social platforms. Political figures launch documentaries, podcasts, and streaming deals. The Melania documentary is part of this modern fusion of politics and celebrity. Beyond controversy, the documentary also highlights the evolving role of the First Lady. Historically, First Ladies have taken on advocacy projects, from Eleanor Roosevelt's activism to Michelle Obama's health initiatives. Melania Trump's approach has been different, more private, more controlled, and now perhaps more media-driven. The film reportedly explores her background, her family life, and her transition back into the White House. For audiences, it offers a rare behind-the-scenes glimpse of a figure who has remained largely inaccessible. For supporters, it is a chance to see her as more than a symbol. For critics, it is another example of the Trump era's blending of politics and spectacle. The Kennedy Center premiere also raised cultural questions about the institution itself. The Kennedy Center has long served as a national monument to the arts, hosting performances meant to unify rather than divide. But as politics increasingly shapes cultural institutions, even a film premiere becomes part of a broader national debate. Melania Trump's documentary may ultimately succeed or fail as a film, but its impact as a cultural event is already undeniable. It places the First Lady at the center of national attention in a way rarely seen. It suggests a more visible role during Trump's second term, and it reflects the ongoing transformation of American political life into a world where media and governance are inseparable. As Melania begins its theatrical run, audiences will decide whether it is compelling cinema, political branding, or something in between. But one thing is clear: this is not a normal First Lady project. This is a global media rollout from inside the White House. The premiere night at the Kennedy Center was not just about a documentary. It was about power, image, culture, and the way modern politics is increasingly told through screens as much as through speeches. Melania Trump has stepped forward, not with a press conference, not with a policy agenda, but with a film. And Washington is watching closely because in this city, even a documentary premiere can signal something much bigger.